Continue on from the previous lesson, or open the file hairsetup04.max. In this lesson we're going to do a little more styling to the hair, as well as adjust the render quality to get a better output. Scroll down to the Tools rollout and click on Style Hair. At this point our hair is a little bit too uniform, so we'll just press B to adjust our brush size and leave it on entire strand. And this is actually the fun part. We can go along and just kind of introduce some different variations and kind of comb and style our hair to our liking. This way it doesn't look as uniform when we're rendering out. I tend to use a bigger brush and then go down a little bit smaller, so roughing out the details and then adding in a little bit more detail with a smaller brush at times. This will help to give you the level of detail you're looking for. Once you've done a lot of styling, a really useful tool is this one right here, which is the stand hairs selected up. If you click on this and grab a little bit bigger brush, what will happen is the hairs will kind of push away from their normal, and it prevents them from getting sucked into the mesh, and it gives you a little bit more push out on the hairs, a little bit more volume. So it's kind of a volumizing brush. And I tend to use this after I've styled quite a bit, because sometimes the hairs will go inside the mesh, or they'll just be laying very flat. Once you're happy with your style, you can click on Done and render it out again. You can see here, by doing this extra level of styling, we got a much more realistic flow of the hair, of the beard, as well as up here on our character. There's some interpenetration here that we might want to go back and fix a little bit later. For right now, some of the problems we're seeing are right here where the hair is pulling away from the cheek, and there's something similar up here at the top. This is basically because we're using two different meshes to produce our hair, and you need to conform them to each other. This will show up a lot more once we take our original mesh and adjust its subdivisions . And you can even see this in the viewport. So when we render this out, you can see that there's a very noticeable distinction between the mesh that grows the hair and the subdivided mesh that's underneath it. This is something that you want to compensate for by moving vertices and faces to coincide with the underlying mesh. So now that we have the render, you can see that the hair is really pulling away from the mesh a lot. So let's go in and fix this. First thing you want to do is select the hair object, and I recommend turning off the hair and fur modifier. This will give you a little bit more interactive feedback. Go down to the editable poly level, and all you really need to do is adjust these pieces to conform or fit to your mesh. So I might take these two that are pulling away here and move them back, as well as scale them in. And if they're a little bit under the mesh, then that's okay. So we can do that there and select this element at the top of the head, move it down and back, And there are definitely some elements on the side of the head here where the sideburns are that could be scaled in. And you just kind of continue on with this process until your hair is fitting fairly well. Once you're happy with how it looks and how it conforms to the surface, you can hop out of sub-object mode, go back, turn your hair on, and you see the hair fits the mesh pretty well, and re-render to see your results. You can see here that the hair mesh much better conforms to the underlying mesh, and when the hair gets redrawn on here, we'll see that too. So we have a pretty good matchup here. The other thing that you may have noticed is for this period, we can actually see the hair mesh, which most of the time when it's covered by hair is not a problem, but it's a good idea to turn it off. So all you have to do is right click, go to properties, and uncheck renderable. This will only set the mesh to not be renderable, and the hair will still render. In the next lesson, we'll perform some finishing touches on the hair to make it look very realistic for final output.